Today, I'm doing Wisconsin and Northwestern. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And right now is the best time to hit that subscribe button. I'm right in the middle of my preseason predictions. I've already done 34 teams. This is teams 35 and 36. So you can go back and watch my other predictions and look forward to my upcoming predictions because I do college football videos every single day. Don't forget to check out my friends at Tri-State Wood Sketch. All you have to do is send him a picture and he'll turn it into a beautiful piece of art on wood. Check out his website at www.tristatewoodsketch.com. Tell them Golden Blue Dude sent you and you'll get 20% off. Today we're going to do season predictions on Northwestern and Wisconsin, and these two teams will play each other in the regular season. I think one of these teams will take a step back and one of these teams will take a step forward. First, let's start with Northwestern. In 2020, Northwestern had possibly their best defense in team history. The head coach, Pat Fitzgerald, has been great at Northwestern. He's had the Wildcats finish in the top 25 4 times in the last 5 years. That's pretty impressive, but they do have to deal with a lot of big losses going into this season. They lost some great players, they lost some important players, and they lost their great defensive coordinator. Mike Hankwitz decided to retire after 51 years of coaching. That's going to be some big shoes to fill right there. First, let's start off with Northwestern's offense. The big problem for the Wildcats offense is they need more explosive plays. Last year, they relied on grinding the clock, shortening the game, and their defense. They might not be able to do that this year. Here's a look at their offense. Last year, they averaged 24.7 points per game. That's 93rd. And averaged 360.9 yards a game. They got a nice little quarterback battle going on. First up, quarterback Hunter Johnson, the Clemson transfer. He was 50 for 108. That's 46.3%. Threw for 432 yards, 1 touchdown, but 4 interceptions. That was in 2019. The other quarterback, Ryan Helinski, a South Carolina transfer. So we have a Clemson transfer and a South Carolina transfer battling it out for the quarterback spot at Northwestern. Last year in limited action, he was 4 for 6. That's 66.7% and threw for 34 yards. In 2019, he was 236 for 406. That's 58.1%, threw for 2,357 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now let's look at their running game. This is what Northwestern really relies on offense. Starting with running back Cam Porter. 81 carries for 333 yards, that's 4.1 yards a carry and 5 touchdowns. The Bowling Green transfer. Running back Andrew Clare. 52 carries for 266 yards, 5.1 yards a carry. Now the area of offense that they need to improve on, the passing game. By the way, guys, there are names on both of these rosters that are tricky, so I probably will mispronounce some names. Starting with their tight end. Tight end Charlie Mangieri, 7 receptions for 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now the wide receiving core. Wide receiver Malik Washington, 5 receptions for 51 yards. Wide receiver Bryce Kurt, 6 receptions for 67 yards. The Kansas transfer, wide receiver Stephon Robinson Jr. Last year, 2 receptions for 35 yards, but in 2019, 45 receptions for 727 yards and 8 touchdowns. Incoming 4-star recruit. Northwestern was able to recruit a 4-star wide receiver. Wide receiver Jordan Mosley, he's 6 foot even, 190 pounds. Wide receiver Berkeley Holman, 2 receptions for 27 yards, and wide receiver Wayne Dennis Jr., 2 receptions for 26 yards. So the offense definitely needs a wide receiver playmaker to emerge. Maybe it's the Kansas transfer, maybe it's the 4-star recruit. Doesn't matter, they just need somebody to step up. Now let's look at Northwestern's defense, one of the best in the nation last year. New defensive coordinator Jim O'Neil has some massive shoes to fill. And I think for this year, the defensive line will be the strength of this defense. Last year they allowed 15.9 points per game, that's 15th in the nation, 341.2 yards a game. Here's their defensive line. Defensive end Adetomiwa Adebawar, 17 tackles, 11 by himself, 2 sacks, 2 pass deflections. Defensive end Sandup Miller, 29 tackles, 18 by himself, half a sack, and 1 pass deflection. That was from 2019. He opted out of last year. Defensive tackle Trevor Kent, 7 tackles, 6 by himself, also opted out of the 2020 season. Defensive tackle Joe Spivak, 14 tackles, 6 by himself, 1 sack. Now the linebacking core. Linebacker Peter McIntyre, 7 tackles, 6 by himself. Linebacker Bryce Gallagher, 3 solo tackles. And linebacker Chris Bergen, 78 tackles, 40 by himself, a half a sack, 1 interception, and 4 pass deflections. Depth isn't an issue in the linebacking core, but filling big shoes that left might be a concern. The secondary has a decent 2-deep setup, but this year they will be less experienced than last year. Starting with their cornerbacks. Cornerback Rod Hurd, 10 tackles, 7 by himself, 1 pass deflection. Cornerback AJ Hampton, 26 tackles, 16 by himself, 1 interception, 5 pass deflections. Safety Brandon Joseph, 52 tackles, 28 by himself, 6 interceptions, and 2 pass deflections. Safety Coco Azima, 5 tackles, 2 by himself, 1 interception. Northwestern Northwestern will take a step back in 2021, but I still think they'll have a decent season, possibly finish in the top 25. The problem is the back end of their schedule is loaded with possible losses. Here is Northwestern's 2021 college football schedule. First up, a home game against Michigan State. Michigan State was one of the teams that did beat them last year. I think Northwestern gets revenge and gets the win. Indiana State at home, win. At Duke, win. Ohio at home, win. At Nebraska, I actually think this is a loss. Nebraska is going to have tremendous size this year. It is going to be in Lincoln. I think Nebraska will be able to run the ball better than Northwestern. Slight upset loss for Northwestern here. They get their bye week. Rutgers at home, win. At Michigan, loss. Minnesota at home, win. Iowa at home, loss. At Wisconsin, I'll predict that at the end of this video. Purdue at home, close win. At Illinois, loss. Illinois is going to be much better this year. So overall, I have Northwestern going either 7-5 or 8-4, possibly finishing in the top 25. By the way, last year they finished 7-2, first in the Big Ten West, preseason ranking number 47. Now it's time for Wisconsin. Last year they went 4-3, third in the Big Ten West, preseason ranking 13th. Injuries and opt-outs sunk Wisconsin before the 2020 season even started. Wisconsin could be back with a vengeance in 2021. The silver lining for last year was Wisconsin did win its bowl, which means Paul Chryst is now 5-1 in bowls while he's been in Madison. Pretty good bowl record. First up, the offense. I think the offense will be much better in 2021. Last year they averaged 25.1 points per game, that's 89th, and averaged 345.6 yards a game. Starting with their quarterback Graham Mertz. When he was good, he was spectacular. When he was bad, he was terrible. Needs to be more consistent. Last year he was 118 for 193, that's 61.1%, threw for 1,238 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now let's look at their running game. Wisconsin will have a decent running game. Starting with running back Jalen Berger, 60 carries for 301 yards, 5 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. Running back Isaac Garindo, 11 carries for 36 yards, 3.3 yards a carry. Wisconsin is one of those few teams that actually still uses a fullback. Fullback John Chennel, 12 carries for 80 yards, 6.7 yards a carry, and 2 touchdowns. Now let's look at Wisconsin's passing game. I think it will be much improved this year. Starting with their tight end Jake Ferguson, 30 receptions for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now their wide receiving core. Wide receiver Danny Davis III, 3 receptions for 78 yards, 1 touchdown. Wide receiver Kendrick Pryor, 8 receptions for 119 yards. Keep your eyes on that guy. Wide receiver Jack Dunn, 28 receptions for 255 yards and 1 touchdown. Wide receiver Chamir Dyke, 12 receptions for 189 yards and 1 touchdown. Winning football games won't just depend on the defense this year for Wisconsin. They are going to have a good offense. I think the offense is going to be way more explosive this year, but I do think the defense will still be the strength of this team. Keeping defensive coordinator Jim Leonard was a big deal. He had a big-time offer from the Packers. He turned it down, staying in Madison. They get 8 starters back, so that's an excellent start. Last year, they allowed 17.4 points per game. That's 9th in the nation, and allowed 299.9 yards a game. Wisconsin's front 7 is going to be downright filthy. Starting with their defensive line. Defensive end Matt Henningsen, 2 tackles, 1 by himself. Defensive tackle Kanu Benton, 8 tackles, 4 by himself, 1 forced fumble. Defensive end Isaiah Mullins, 4 tackles, 2 by himself, 1 pass deflection. Now their linebacking core. Linebacker Nick Herbig, 26 tackles, 23 by himself, 1 sack, 1 pass deflection. Linebacker Jack Sanborn, 52 tackles, 31 by himself, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. Linebacker Leo Chenell, 40 tackles, 28 by himself, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, and 1 pass deflection. And linebacker Noah Burks, 18 tackles, 13 by himself, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 1 pass deflection. I think the secondary will take a major step forward in 2021. It will have depth and experience. The only thing that they need to improve on is turning people over. They need more turnovers, starting with their cornerbacks. Cornerback Fane Hicks, 13 tackles, 10 by himself, 4 pass deflections. Quarterback Caesar Williams, 13 tackles, 6 by himself, 2 pass deflections. Free safety Colin Wilder, 30 tackles, 17 by himself, 1 interception, 2 pass deflections. And strong safety Scott Nelson, 21 tackles, 17 by himself, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, and 1 pass deflection. Despite having a letdown year in 2020, Wisconsin and the rest of the Big Ten West knows that in order to go to the Big Ten championship game, you have to go through Madison. Wisconsin has owned the Big Ten West for the most part, and I think the Big Ten West gets back to normal in 2021. Wisconsin will be the team to beat the Big Ten West in 2021. Here's a look at Wisconsin's 2021 college football schedule. First, a home game against Penn State. That's a big win. Eastern Michigan at home, win. Then they get their bye week. Notre Dame in Chicago. I think Wisconsin wins that game. Michigan at home, win. At Illinois, win. Army at home, win. At Purdue, I think this is a letdown loss. Purdue is going to be better than people realize. It is on the road. I think this is where Wisconsin slips up and grabs a loss. Iowa at home, win. At Rutgers, win. They get Northwestern at home. I'll predict that here in just a minute. Nebraska at home, win. At Minnesota, win. So depending on that Northwestern game, I have Wisconsin going either 11-1 or 10-2. Now time for the actual game prediction itself. Northwestern at Wisconsin. I think this game gets off to a slow start. Both of these teams are going to have pretty good defenses, but I think Wisconsin's offense is just a little bit better, and it is in Madison. I think Wisconsin pulls off this win. I have the final score 28-20 in favor of Wisconsin. This might be one of those boring games to watch, especially if you don't like defense. There's going to be a lot of defense. But I think Wisconsin is capable of a few explosive plays here and there. I wouldn't be surprised if they scored more than 28, but I'm sticking with 28-20. So that means overall, I have Northwestern going 7-5. They could still possibly finish in the top 25, maybe. Get to a decent bowl, build on that, and have a better team in 2022. So for Wisconsin, I have them going 11-1, getting to the Big Ten championship. This could be a play-in game for Wisconsin if they win the Big Ten championship, and I think they're capable of doing it. They might be that team that hasn't made the playoffs in the past that could make the playoffs this year. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.